All right, we're in this question. This is an awesome question. Where do we start? We start with the thesis, which in this case is this last sentence down here. Since the symptoms of cerebral edema resemble those of ordinary mountain sickness, cerebral edema is especially dangerous at high altitudes. Not just regular dangerous. Notice this says especially dangerous. So there's something special about the dangerousness over here, right? And we want to think about, okay, well, first of all, why? Like, what makes this danger so special? Why is it especially dangerous? Well, it turns out, if you've ever studied any adverb clauses, this over here, since the symptoms of blah, 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 that's actually an adverb clause. And it's going to tell us more information about this verb in the main clause. If you haven't studied adverb clauses, that's okay. You're going to do it soon in this curriculum. Adverb clauses are awesome, and studying grammar is awesome, and it's going to help you really piece together things like this. When you have those questions in your mind, like, oh, well, you know, why did that person do this? And who was this person? And what's going on here? I guarantee there's going to be some kind of an adjective or adverb clause that's going to give you that information. And it's going to be cool when you can piece that together, right? So, this since is usually a common starting word for adverb clauses. It means like because, right? So why is cerebral edema especially dangerous? Because the symptoms of cerebral edema look like those of ordinary mountain sickness. So it's not dangerous because it's, you know, quickly becomes life-threatening. It's especially dangerous. This is what this guy's trying to tell us. Especially dangerous because it looks like ordinary mountain sickness from which most people can recover. Ordinary mountain sickness is just like no big deal, sort of, right? People are like, oh, you're fine. You just have mountain sickness. It's fine. And it turns out you have cerebral edema and you're like straight up dying, right? Now, obviously, if you don't get treated, that's super bad. But what is the thing that makes it especially dangerous? It's that you're less likely to get treated because what you have doesn't look distinctively like cerebral edema, right? That's the idea. So people are going to think you have mountain sickness. They're going to treat you for mountain sickness, and they're not going to treat you for cerebral edema. You're not going to get your cerebral edema treatment. Now, we get into the assumption. The assumption here is basically what would make this conclusion false. That's what we want to think about, right? Or, you know, what did this person have to tuck into the back of their minds and say, okay, well, this must be true. This thing must be true. And then they made their conclusion based off of that. It's kind of the idea. And this assumption makes some kind of sense, right? I mean, we can look at this and we say, okay, well, you know, cerebral edema is a different disease from ordinary mountain sickness. And so, you know, maybe probably the treatments are different. It's the thing that we believe in general, right? You say, oh, well, you know, there's the flu and then you have cancer. You're not going to treat those two things the same. The treatments are different for the flu and cancer. And ordinary mountain sickness and cerebral edema, probably the treatments are different. But when you don't have the data, it's still an assumption, right? That is still an assumption. Probably the treatments are different is an assumption because you don't know for sure. And that's what we're going to try to look at. You guys are going to get so awesome at finding these assumptions. But one of the ways that you can kind of look at it in here is by starting to think about, okay, well, what would really happen? The person would think that you had mountain sickness and then you would get that treatment, but maybe not this treatment. That's why it's so dangerous. And that leads you into starting to think about treatments. And what if the treatments are actually the same? Well, then would cerebral edema be dangerous? That's what we got to think about next.